Hi, I'm the Dutch birder, and 2025 is my 17th year of birding. This year I'm on a quest to document at least 250 different bird species. Join me on my quest through wetlands and forest of the small European country called the Netherlands. Since Willem was still in the middle of bed season, we decided to head to Texel a little later than planned. To still make the most of the sunlight, our first target was the American golden plover. Over the past few days, the bird had been spotted from the dike, looking inland towards a wide ditch on the northeast side of the bowl. That's where we hoped to find it. When we arrived at the dike, we immediately noticed how strong the wind was, but undeterred, we began our search. As often happens, the car was used as a tripod. It's more stable than my actual tripod in these windy conditions. To give you an idea of the distance, here's the bird filmed at 300mm, the minimum my setup can handle. The brown lines in the shot? That's the fence I had to look through. You can see the bird sitting on a small tongue of land. Zooming in a bit more, some key features begin to appear, but you can also clearly see the heat haze and wind distortion. To minimize that effect, I got as low to the ground as possible, sitting behind the open trunk using a beanbag on top of the tripod. This is about as good as it got, but even so, the idea is clear. Note the thick white color that forms a droplet shape at the bottom. The black belly reaches all the way to the wing and continues under the tail. Classic American golden plover. So we just got the American golden plover. Now onto our second target, the Pacific golden plover. The Pacific golden plover was in the same general area, but we had to make a 10-minute loop around the site to get to the observation point. For some reason, I was expecting a viewing hill, not sure why, so I was a little surprised to see a completely flat landscape. This bird was also supposed to be far off, but it had been seen just 30 minutes before we arrived, so hopes were high. Tripods were set up, and, because of the horseflies, insect repellent was quickly applied. We soon found the group of plovers where the bird was supposed to be, but many were barely visible. Eventually, we spotted one with a similar broad white collar, but since we could only see the head, we weren't totally sure. Again, the wind and distance worked against us. Without the shelter of the car, I had to rely on the tripod, but all things considered, I'm really not unhappy with the result. Compared to the American golden plover, you'll notice here the white collar continues fully around the back, which resembles the European golden plover more. However, with a bit of imagination, you might catch a glimpse of the dark underwing, a key feature since the European species has white underwings. Like its American cousin, the Pacific golden plover is much more striking in its black and white contrast than our golden-toned local species. One really helpful ID feature here is size. The Pacific is clearly smaller than the European golden plover. After observing for quite a while, and with the bird refusing to leave the ground, a familiar birder joined us. From that point on, Joop decided to tag along to the next target.
Hoi.
Hey,
Hoi.
kerel!
Had niet gezien.
We just picked up the second target, the Pacific golden plover, and we also saw some European golden plovers, so the bingo card with plovers is complete. Nice. We're now onto our third target, the Rosy Starling, which could be the most difficult target of the day. Let's see if we can find it. The Rosy Starling posed a different kind of challenge. The bird was on private property, a farmyard to be precise. If we didn't get permission to enter, we'd have to try from the public road. The issue, most of the starlings were inside the barn. After a little while, we managed to find the owner of the farm, and luckily she had no issue with us searching for the bird. We spotted plenty of starlings in and around the barn, but at first the Rosy Starling didn't seem to be among them. Until suddenly, there it was, perched on the roof out of nowhere. My very first adult Rosy Starling in full summer plumage, absolutely stunning. Who knows, maybe it's the same individual that was seen here last autumn and winter, now making a return visit. After spending some time on the roof, the bird hopped down through a hole and reappeared inside the barn, giving us another good look. This species breeds in Central Asia and winters in India. The western edge of its breeding range just touches part of the Balkans. Some years see a full-blown influx into northwestern Europe, but even in quieter years, a few juvenile birds are usually found, especially in September, when they often turn up among flocks of common starlings. We got all 3 targets in less than 2 hours of searching. Lovely. We took a short break from birding and headed into the dunes to look for butterflies. Not really my thing. I'm 100% focused on birds. But when you're out with others, sometimes you join in with their interests too. And honestly, I don't dislike butterflies at all. The main goal here was to find a dark green fritillary. We didn't get further than a possible candidate for that species, but still had some nice sightings. A grayling and an Niobe fritillary made it worth the effort. After this short interlude, it was time to get back to birds. We no longer had any real target species, but there were still a few that would count towards the year list challenge. First up, a black swan, a category C species that I do count when comparing my list to the backyard aviary birders. Sure, it's not a wild bird, but it's a beautiful one, originally from Australia, where it leads a nomadic life depending on weather patterns. Our next stop was the Prins Hendrik Zandijk, a relatively new site with an unusual viewing platform. The distances here are huge, but the area has produced some interesting birds over the years, including a greater sand plover some time ago. Today I was hoping for something like a little gull, a species I managed to miss all year so far. While scanning a distant sandbar with a group of eiders, I checked to see if the spectacled eider might be among them. That's when I noticed a species I'd seen many times this year, but somehow had never remembered to film. The greater black-backed gull, another one for the year list. Joop then suggested we cook up some dinner in his van, and we made our way to the Mokbai, which seems like the perfect spot for a relaxed evening meal. After picking up some veggie burgers, sausages and bread with spreads from the local supermarket, we set up a cozy little table while I continued scanning the bay for waders. There was still one relatively easy wader missing from my year list, the bar-tailed godwit. We'd seen a group earlier at the Bull, but they were even further away than the American golden plover, so I had decided not to bother filming them. Anyone who's been to Mokbai knows the distances here are also huge, but it became a great test for the teleconverter. Despite the shimmer from heat haze, the level of detail I could capture was surprisingly good. I especially liked this trio of birds all showing different plumages, from full summer plumage to nearly winter and one in between. After yet another New Year list species and a great meal, we said our goodbyes to Joop, who was staying on the island for one more night. We boarded the ferry back to the mainland. But the birding wasn't quite over yet. Just off the highway on the way home, there was still a corncrake that had been calling regularly during the day. That was worth a try. It didn't take long before we heard it call. We estimated it was about 20 meters away. Always a thrill to hear this secretive species again. I'm trying to pinpoint where exactly the sound is coming from, but it is very hard. I think it is turning its head while it's calling. So I don't precisely know where it is, and the vegetation is pretty high, so I am afraid seeing it will be very hard. Well, sadly we have to give up on views of the corncrake, but since I can count 5 species heard only for this year list challenge, I can count it anyways. I hope you liked the video, please subscribe and I'll see you next time.